Welcome to Between Data and Risk podcast. Today we'll talk about logistics management and automation with our guest Joseph Sherry, Director of Operations at Caljan, a global force in developing highly engineered logistics automation solutions. Stay tuned.
If you're a business owner or senior manager, you probably had more than enough about all the wonderful opportunities awaiting you in the era of digitalization.
Whether it is big data, cloud, data science, or whatever buzzword is currently trendy.
If you would like to hear someone dissecting these claims and showing you what it actually takes to improve business processes, you're in the right place.
This is Between Data and Risk, where we discuss real-life examples of what works and what doesn't in the world of business operations.
Hi, I'm your friendly neighborhood data guy, Dr. Marian, and with me is my co-host, Artur Guja, Cognition Shared Solutions Chief Risk and Strategy Officer.
Hello.
Welcome to this episode of Between Data and Risk. Today we'll be talking about challenges in logistics management. We are excited to have with us our guest, Joseph Sherry, Director of Operations at Caljan, a global force in developing highly engineered logistics automation solutions. Hello, Joe.
Hi.
Could you start maybe with telling us what is doing the global force in developing highly engineered logistics solutions? I think it will give a good background for the rest of the discussion.
Yeah, so Caljan is, we're headquartered out of Denmark. We have multiple locations now throughout the world, in Germany, France, the UK, and now the US. And some of those are different divisions. So we have a loading and unloading division, which builds telescopic conveyors that sit on the end of a loading dock and either load or unload trucks. We have a document handling and labeling division, which is used in multiple sortation centers in some pretty large companies throughout the world. And then we are starting to do more of integrated solutions department so that we can do a full build. If somebody comes in with a basically parcel handling company and they want to build their whole warehouse, sortation center and everything, and we would handle that from start to finish, utilizing both our solutions and then some other customer solutions as well. So
yeah, it's pretty impressive.
This is I always kind of imagine those warehouses to be kind of controlled chaos, just packages everywhere and labels. Just no one really, apart from the computer system, knows where everything goes, and that's I guess it's very data heavy, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of integration of data between systems. That's one of the more difficult parts of integrating any equipment. There's a lot of suppliers have their own standalone equipment, which then has to be integrated together with the customer's data, which is really the hard part, and the heavy part of that is managing all that data and making sure it is hitting the right areas at the right time. So
we had a podcast with Markus Conline. He was working with precision cutting manufacturer, like equipment for really precise cutting, and he was talking about how they, as a supplier of actually equipment, they also support the data part of their clients, just to make sure that what is being cut on very highly precise machines, what's coming in is what needs to be cut, but it's delivered to the place where it needs. And they had the whole division which was working with data, despite being manufacturers of actual equipment. They work with data heavily. Can you share with us what are other, let's say, challenges if somebody wants to automate their logistics, I don't know, warehouse management? What are the challenges that you guys know of?
Yeah, a lot of the challenge right now is having the solutions throughout the facility. So some of the challenges we run into is we're able to automate certain parts, but there's currently a number of things that are still not readily available to be automated. So one of the main parts that we're actually working on, and we have actually a new division, is auto loading and unloading of semi-trailers. So right now, even your Amazons, your Walmarts, someone has to be inside of that trailer putting the packages onto the conveyor. So I can get conveyor out there and automatically take it from when they set it on the conveyor through the rest of the line. But to unload and load those trucks, there has to be somebody there. So one of the solutions that we're currently working on is automatic loading and unloading. Now, right now, it's kind of limited to more of the parcel side of the business, poly bags, that type of thing, where it can just be stacked in no significant order. But that is one of the main areas right now where I can have automation solutions down the line. But if the bottleneck is how fast somebody can load something onto the conveyor, the return on investment on those things becomes an issue.
Yeah, because if you deliver the packages to him too fast, he will just get crushed by all these packages falling on him.
Correct.
I've seen, I've seen a pretty interesting solution. There were forklifts which were bringing it was palleted goods, but they were packing like this huge table, and they just moved with pallets. They loaded this table, and there was a truck standing, at the short side of the table, and somehow this whole table just rolled into the truck. So they instead of loading things into the truck, they just loaded stuff on the table, and they took all everything.
Yep.
It went into the truck. I said I was a bit surprised. It's kind of brilliant if you think about it. I still don't know how they moved the whole table into the truck.
Yeah, and that is one of our newest solutions is very similar to that from an unloading perspective. It is actually the floor of the truck that will roll off and then be automatically unloaded and get to a conveyor belt, and then it keeps going. One of the biggest challenge there is working with customers that own their own trucking.
Trucks.
And if they don't, because it's a customization of a truck, it gets to be a little bit tougher to sell. But in certain situations, that is going to be the next thing that everybody's trying to look at. So,
it's when we work with automating business processes and manual systems, we always kind of try to work to the adage that you should automate as much as possible, but not a tiny bit more, because then everything starts breaking down. I guess this is the kind of limit. But it's interesting because in data wise, I remember my father used to work on kind of on tankers, on petrol vessels, but he also worked on container ships. And one of the big problems they had there, which was data heavy, is stacking the containers in the right order. So when you go to the port, you go from the top rather than try to unload the one that is at the very bottom. And I guess you have the same problem with trucks. The moment you have, obviously, if it's one client, one truck, then it's not a problem. But if you have multiple deliveries, you have to make sure that your first delivery is not loaded at the very kind of front of the truck where you have to crawl through the rest of the space. Do you also provide solutions that cater to these kind of problems?
Currently, we don't have any internal solutions for that. A lot of that has to do with kind of how these sortation systems in these. I don't know if you've ever seen like an Amazon distribution center or a Walmart distribution center or any of those, just the size of those facilities and the way they handle it is just right now is with a lot of accumulating conveyor or bins and just huge amounts of space to be able to separate everything. but then super long conveyor lines going through the system so that they have time to get the right, and a lot of them will deal with multiple different sortation labels. So one of our systems deals with that. It basically takes the way kind of Amazon's model works is they'll have distribution centers, and those distribution centers will put labels on, which then go to another one of their warehouses, which is more localized. So then those sortation labels get scanned when they enter, and then it sends it to other trucks that then either deliver locally or go to some of the different
points.
centers they have more locally. So it's a number of different sortation
model, right?
Yep.
Yep. Now, hierarchy of centers and.
But then some of the other customers in that regard will do more of a direct ship. So if they're utilizing some of the parcel carriers like UPS or FedEx, it'll just pull right out of that distribution center and then get a shipping label on it, and then get sent to individual trucks that then take them to those parcel carriers. So there's a couple different models there. I think we've had some good practice as a global economy on some of that over the last few years because of how much e-commerce has exploded due to COVID and some of those things. So I think they're still trying to figure out the best way to do that. And again, it has to do with how much of your supply chain do you own. So with some of them, they have the airplanes, they have the trucks, they have all those pieces of equipment, so they can manage their system a little bit differently.
I think it's an interesting problem because you've got the hardware layer where you provide the hardware solutions, the conveyor belts, the loading systems. You've got a software problem where all of this it's not just a hammer drill where you point it in one place and it does a job. You have to make it work in a pretty complex fashion, and then you've got kind of a human element still there, where people are still doing those jobs. Now, apart from loading, unloading, which you explained is manual because there's a kind of, let's call it, geometrical problem trying to fit it all in the right place. Are humans also involved in anything else in the process, or is it all the rest automated?
Yeah, so that changes a bit too based on some of the corporations that are doing it. So, at one of the sites we go to, they actually have the only place that has human interaction besides loading and unloading is the packaging of the product. So they actually have the product meet the box that's custom designed for that product or number of products at a station that the workers is stationed at, and there's a screen, and it shows them which position to pick, which box to put it in. They put it in that box, fold the top over, and then the rest of it is all done automatically. It gets taped, it gets sent down the line, has the shipping label applied, and then it goes to where it gets loaded onto a truck. So the only other part of that where there's human intervention a lot of times is if there's an error. So whenever something goes through and either misses a scan or a label was misapplied and there's an error where it doesn't meet up with the other data, there'll be human intervention in those areas where something either gets repackaged or has to get looked at. But I mean, generally speaking, you're looking at the size of these facilities, and the number of people that are in there at any given time is so few compared to how large of a facility it is, because it just runs so well. And it's all about the data accuracy and data integrity. And you can just see, some of the numbers that we have to hit with our machines it doesn't pass FAT unless it's 99.9% accurate. And that's over 2,500 packages per hour. So it's a significant amount of data that has to be read quickly and accurately and processed through the right way. So, and that's just one piece of equipment in miles of conveyor and other pieces of equipment within that facility.
So how many different, let's say, if we would think of, let's say, such an automation system, how many different pieces of equipment would let's say, I'm not talking about the gigantic Amazon scale, but let's say average factory packing their stuff and sending it, to clients. How many different types of equipment they should buy to automate the process as much as possible? Like, what is the complication of the system?
Yeah, a lot of what we would see from a standard kind of facility that's not truly e-commerce driven, would be people are generally picking and packing their own parts and putting them in boxes and doing that. So that's where one of our telescopic conveyors is a help, because it basically allows you to load and unload trucks at a faster rate with one person than you would with two people, which was obviously really important during COVID, because you couldn't have two people within 6 feet of each other in a truck. So that was an important piece. But
they would have to put the package on the ground, then one moves back.
Yeah, so I think a lot of our smaller customers are kind of building kind of smaller conveyor systems through the facility where they can. They'll utilize that automated movement where they can. We're even in some tire factories or tire distribution centers. So loading and unloading of tires, but then it goes on to skids and different things. So there's a manual part there, but then it moves over to forklifts and some of that more equipment. But it's a lot less automated than your Walmarts and your Amazons. And I think what it comes down to a lot of times from that standpoint is just cost. Automated equipment at a large scale, or actually at a small scale, is generally very expensive, and the return on investment on it takes a long time.
Which is, I think, that, why, like you said, it needs to be an e-commerce driven enterprise that actually can justify. You said, if I remember correctly, 25,000 packages an hour. It was
2,500. Yep.
Sorry, 2,500. Yeah. So 2,500.
That'll be the next number.
If you have one package an hour, you probably don't want to automate it, right? You have to have the numbers to justify. But yep. I wanted to ask you. You provide the hardware. You provide some of the software. Do you also provide the design of the kind of implementation of the system? If I'm Amazon and I'm opening a new warehouse, well, maybe not Amazon, because probably they do everything by themselves. That they have the manpower, right? But yeah. if I want to open a warehouse today, do I just buy the hardware from you, or do I buy the full integrated solution?
Well, and that's one of the business models that we're trying to really go after now. Is more and more companies want to go to one expert in the industry and say, what do we need and how do we make this run the best way? So we do a mix of design with our customers on that, and that many times will include not only our equipment. We try to supply as much of the equipment as we can, but certain things just aren't our niche. So we will outsource some of the equipment and purchase that ourselves and still install it ourselves and run that whole project. But we try to be a full. We're trying more and more to be a full solution where we can, because that is one thing our company prides itself on, is managing that whole process and being the experts in that entire process, from unloading of the parts to loading of it to getting it to the customer. So that's what we try to do as a company.
I'm actually curious about the risks related to all this automation. How because, as you said, sometimes things go wrong, and as long as it's a mislabeled package, I guess, if the package is, let's say, labeled in a way that it raises a red flag, I don't know what to do with it. It's a pretty easy to I don't know, imagine and work with. But wherever you have moving parts around people, I already see some pretty bloody scenarios. So the question is, like, how do you work with this risk? What are the main risks of business, but also the human factor risks that you deal with, and how do you deal with them?
Yeah, I mean, from a safety perspective, we have our own team of people that do risk analysis on these from a safety aspect, especially being within the European market. A lot of times, some of the safety things are a lot more strict than what they would be in the U.S., which, from my standpoint, is actually a good thing, that we err on the side of caution more than anything. But we'll see that, especially from the larger e-commerce customers there, that's a very important aspect and really near the top. So there's a lot of guarding. The machines that are built by us have a lot of labels, a lot of guarding. You can't, pinch points are clearly defined if there are any. And, if there are any, those are guarded as well. So that's taken very seriously and is analyzed in each of the projects we do. Now, luckily from our the equipment that we've done, it's been 70 years basically, we've been working on telescopic conveyor. So we have a very good understanding of that. And a lot of our equipment, comparatively to some of the other automated equipment, doesn't have, we don't really deal a lot with like robotic arms or anything like that, which I've dealt with in the past, in past experience. And at that point, you're talking very large cages, and everything has light curtains and sensors. So if there's anybody near it that crosses a line, everything shuts down. So that's the main thing that we're doing from a safety standpoint. The other that has to do more on the data side is that integration of systems between our equipment talking with the other suppliers' equipment or our customer servers. The things that will be realized and seen is basically packages shipping to the wrong house or to the wrong business. And to try to mitigate that, we have the ability to access test servers and some of those things ahead of time to try to verify that we have the right connection and the right link. And we do significant testing before we go live. And then on site as well, we go through it all over again and do significant testing to make sure that that everything's talking and communicating properly. But it has happened. I mean, we have seen things shipped to the wrong location, and that is not good. The customer is very unhappy with that.
A friend working in logistics, and there were whole trucks going into the wrong. It's like, guys, actually, we didn't order this truck, so whoops, it's actually on the other side of the country. So, I have Artur. Maybe I should give you a chance because I have a question.
Because it's something that information security. You mentioned the kind of the testing of it, and obviously it goes without saying that all of this, since it's online and it needs to be protected against hacking, against intrusion, against all sorts of information, the whole cybersecurity shebang. But at the same time, it is kind of it's the done thing that you, like you said, you have online access to the live systems to be able to verify what's going on, support them. So there's a balance, because I always when I work with online systems, there's always kind of the fear that if a support person has access, that means there's access from an external point, which means a hacker can have access, right? So
Yep.
how do you balance that risk? And are there certain systems that are air gapped, so completely disconnected, or how do you work with it?
Yeah, so luckily, from our standpoint, we are only basically reading data, and so we aren't necessarily responsible for that data protection, because we're only reading it. Our systems don't have any basically outside access, online access. We even go as far on our telescopic conveyors that with some of the safety PLCs and things that we use, that we keep it where you basically still have to put in like an SD card or hook up directly with a computer on site to be able to access that system. Just more so from the safety aspect, where we can't have somebody accessing it even within that organization and maybe having it turn on or extending and not knowing what's around it. So we really protect that, and it also protects the programming aspect, and make sure that we're the only ones updating those programs to make sure that the safety, the items we've put in for safety are engaged, and then they're not being bypassed. So that's how we do it from a safety perspective with our machines. But from the data standpoint, like I said, we're only reading data. So we really don't store any of it on any of our systems. We don't generally have our own servers that store any of that information. We're just reading it from our customer servers.
I have another a bit data-related question, because in the past, it was some time ago, but we worked a bit on the predictive maintenance. And how does it work when it comes to maintaining? Because moving parts means wear and tear means breakdowns. So how do you cope with with maintenance of your system? Is it also like data driven, or is it more traditional? Like, okay, so every 6,000 packages, please replace this wheel, and after another. Do we talk about IoT here and some sensory readings that tell you when something goes wrong, or is it still time times
minimum time between failures, right?
Yeah. So currently, we do more of a scheduled preventative maintenance programs on our machines from the telescopic machine standpoint. One of the things that I have been working with our team to push is getting more of that. We have the processing power and the sensors and everything on our machines to be able to react and have a better understanding of what goes wrong. So now we just need to put that in place so we can get a little bit better view of that from something like a small HMI screen or something like that. Even use of some of our stack lights, where if we could have it, if it had flashed 3 times in some type of that as a code for something. So we are working on some of those processes as we speak to get a little bit better at that, because it's better for our customer It'll be better for our customers. Some of our customers do their own maintenance and will get trained on our machines to do their own maintenance. So it makes it easier for them. It'll be better for us because we're fielding fewer phone calls. We have fewer downtime. We know exactly what's needed and when, and it's all there. The information's all there. Now we just have to get a system to get that information to us and make sense of it in a way to make it work for us and our customers. So that's something we're going through. We do have more of that capability on our document handling and labeling lines because they are so much more automated from like an HMI and PLC standpoint, that they are always kind of managing the data throughout, and if there's any errors, it automatically pops up and tells you what the error is. So they're a little bit more advanced from that standpoint, and there's more automated equipment on there and sensors and things that can also go have issues. So it's really important. Our telescopic conveyors are a bit less complex, but it would still be of great value to be able to access that information, be able to see some of the things like hours, run hours, that type of thing, so that we can get ahead of it and say, because we know generally how many hours a belt should last. Get ahead of it and be able to say, instead of looking at it 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, that type of thing, we're really watching actual usage, and we can get ahead of it and say, hey, it looks like you're coming up on your belt's lifespan, and we should look at replacing it. And it'll save them from emergency downtime and all of those things. So it will definitely, there's a place for it, and I think every company is moving in that direction, or should be. So that's something we're working on.
No, it's it's very interesting topic. There's a lot of, I would say, advanced algorithmic methods for anomaly detection. I remember one project where there were installed like a little zip ties on the cables, so just to measure the current which is fed to the machines, and through the fluctuations in the actual current, let's say, uptake, you could tell a lot about the health of the machine, which was on its own so complicated that trying to get all the readings from all the different moving parts, it would be next to impossible. But it was just a simple, like, oh, there is something. Could someone come and look at me, please? And it was like, simple yet effective. So yeah, I'm really fond of this predictive maintenance stuff, because it's a nice combination of actual engineering, someone who understands the machine, and data science, where me as a data scientist, I'm always keen to learn about new types of machines, and I find these projects fascinating myself.
Yeah, and it's becoming more and more cost effective. Obviously there's been shortages of electrical components, and we had a little blip on the radar here, but overall, I mean, the price of those types of sensors and things that can read are relatively inexpensive, especially when you compare it to one single service call. Taking an airplane across the country to find something out that could have been changed in 15 minutes. So
and that lack of electrical components is biting everyone. I can't get a new Raspberry Pi for the last 6 months. So. But it's I wanted to kind of ask you, looking a bit more higher level, because we've discussed about the management of the machines. We discussed about the putting it all together and delivering a solution to a client. But now I want to ask you about what kind of interaction you get, or what models do your clients adopt? Because the whole point of having an automated system is that it in the long term, it's supposed to reduce the cost, increase the speed, increase the reliability. But there's kind of an old joke, which I studied at a technical university, and we had this old joke that this machine will replace the 10 workers, but it needs to be serviced by 11 specialists, right?
Yep.
So how do your customers, when they build it, do they hire specialists? Do they train those specialists? And how do they go about organizing their company, their organization, their enterprise, so they actually make full use of this?
Yeah, so from some of the larger corporations, if you're talking about like an Amazon or a Walmart, they both hire separate teams for maintenance, for safety, for those types of things. Now, the difference in a lot of those is if they are internal hires or if they outsource it. But most of them will have, even from an integrator that they use, will have 24/7 site support over the entire line for a long time. And they are working always to train their own staff or whoever they're outsourced to be able to take care of any of the small issues or address any of the smaller issues that may come up. But they also, from a service support standpoint, downtime in one of those facilities is a significant cost. Any downtime is a significant cost. So with them knowing that, they try to do as much on site as possible. And if they can't, the turnaround time is expected to be quick, to say the least. And we try to support that, in the U.S. by having regional service personnel that work for our company and are able to service those machines and equipment. But we do the same thing in Europe. We have regional service teams with service vans and some of that stuff. But more and more, from a cost perspective, we're seeing companies try to bring that in house now. On some of the more complex machines and equipment, there's a cost comparison there on having somebody whose main expertise is that equipment and somebody who's not. So I think that's where kind of what we were talking about with IoT would help, because it should be able to allow us to tell our customers, what can they fix? We're aware of an issue. We believe that they can fix that internally with their teams, and we have a good understanding of how their teams have been trained because we're doing the training. Or if it's something that should require, one of our service techs to come look at it. So, but most of those larger organizations are set up with either a contracted safety and maintenance team or an internal one. Now, from some of the smaller organizations, there will be, because of cost, they will try to do it internally a lot of times. But it becomes a little more difficult because they don't have a large team to take care of it. So it's, even within some of our organization here, we have people that have multiple roles and are trying to do multiple things. So, as we grow, we have to continue to try to redefine and get specialists in certain areas because otherwise we just can't keep up with maintenance and some of those things. So we have to hire it out. So there's always that cost comparison and there's always a little bit of risk there, because everybody always, when you're smaller and you're really looking at cost, you're weighing if you think something catastrophic from a failure is going to happen where it's going to shut you down for a long time. And hopefully you're not wrong, but it happens. So
this is part of our work sometimes, is to evaluate the risk. Like, what are the chances that things will go really, really south, and how much it will cost, and how much money you need to have, let's say, on your bank account to make sure that if the things happen, But I have another question going a bit back to the data part, because when you mentioned this IoT and when we spoke about this predictive maintenance, we worked a little with digital twinning on the logistics side and supply chain side. Like, did you have situation where someone wanted to connect your systems to digital twins, so there is a full visibility of what's happening on the site? So actually, with package X, you have a little screen, and package X is just going, left turn, no way to turn left on the conveyor belt or something like that. Okay, of course, I'm exaggerating, but just a little bit.
So we have some of that at a smaller scale. I would say a lot of it is where they're trying to connect it into some of their data servers and things to obviously measure accuracy and run rate and all of those things. We generally, in our systems, there's not too much of a lot of what if analysis type things going on where they're trying to, we haven't run into that yet from different models. It's something that we've considered doing here, especially with some of the issues we've run into with our own supply chains and trying to understand, if there's, some type of risk, or we get a big increase in sales, how do we manage that, especially with some of the issues we've had in the supply chain. And what a lot of it seemingly comes down to is our lowest tier supplier, how accurate is the data that we can get from them. And even some of our large suppliers, so even like if we take a look at our electronics suppliers like our Siemens and our Allen Bradleys, we don't always have a good understanding of how they'll respond with their customer base and how they'll prioritize in that. So it's something that we definitely want to do more of and really should work on more. We really need to get more data from our suppliers on that. And I think we realized that more over, the last few years. But I think what we've focused on more and kind of has been the method in the past is it's always been considered like, if you have a good relationship with your supplier, that's what drives if you'll get, certain parts. But that's really not the driving factor. It's, it's volume, it's lifetime volume, and along with, what's expected and forecasted. Generally speaking, that's who's going to get, whoever has the highest amount of that is who's going to get the parts. So I think some of the bigger electronics organizations managed through that about as well as they could. Some of those places made everyone basically cancel any orders that were for inventory. So so then they had a clear picture of everyone's true demand and what that looked like. So then they could kind of mitigate some of each company's risk, which was tough to do, because I'm sure they were just getting phone calls and emails from every organization, globally. So it's obviously a little bit easier to deal with at the local level with smaller suppliers, but the large suppliers that were dealing with those, chip shortages and things like that, had to be very difficult. But so yeah, we need to really get more data, accurate data from our supply chain to do more of the twin modeling. But it's the value of it is definitely high if we can do it effectively.
And it's interesting because I'm guessing from what you said, I get the impression that quite a lot of those ideas that could be applied to your clients could be equally could be at first applied to your own systems. So when you're developing that, you're almost developing it with dual purpose, right? Solve your own problems. You know what your problems you have, solve them, and then sell that solution to client, and the ROI just goes through the roof.
Yep.
So it's we've seen some
sell it, or like Marcus said, like even make it available so they can, if you sell automation systems for logistics, maybe it's reasonable to just make it available so they have an additional incentive to get this pretty expensive solutions. So I don't know. It's not that I'm going to tell you how to run your business.
No, for sure. I mean, if we can utilize our, to utilize the automation within our own business is going to make us better all the way through. And that's I've worked at many, medium-sized businesses, and a lot of medium-sized businesses are really good at staying up to date and on the cutting edge of their product lines, but not so great at it on the internal workings of their organizations and how they're run. And that's one thing we're really trying to work on here, is doing it, both ways, because especially from logistics automation, I mean, it covers, a huge part of our business, because we're bringing in parts for assembly, and then shipping parts out, doing all those things that a lot of our customers are doing, just at a smaller scale. And if we can make it work for us at a small scale, and then make it scalable, it kind of sells itself. And we have some good data to fall back on with our own experience at that point as well. So
yeah, sounds really interesting.
And also it allows I guess to kind of funnel it down, because development of such a system, we've recently had a kind of similar experience where development of the system is expensive, all the research and that needs to go into it, the thinking, that the actual implementation of it, it's quite costly. If you can develop something that because you're trying to customize it for one client and solve all their problems, if you can solve 75% problems but sell it to 1,000 clients, it's just pure business sense. And it's this kind of scaling of processes that it really brings, I think, also innovation into it, because like you said, you're trying to sell complete solutions, which requires putting it together, making it modular enough so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time, right?
Right.
So
plug and play solutions are
modules. And I mean, flexibility overall is going to always, especially in this market, with any products right now, flexibility in being able to process whatever it is huge. I mean, I came from the food and beverage conveyor industry, and the majority, or I shouldn't even say the majority, but many of the beverage companies aren't buying their own fillers or packaging or any of that, because they change product lines so often. So what they do is they outsource it to co-packers, and those co-packers are looking to buy equipment that can be basically infinitely adjustable, so it can run every type of bottle. Because whenever you go to the supermarket, you see a new can or a new bottle of something. And, so to have equipment that can process all these different sizes of of bottle or package is extremely important, because the markets change so fast right now. People's appetite for things change super fast right now. So if anybody's going to put the money forward for this capital equipment, they're going to want to make sure that it's capable of handling what comes along. So, we see that in just the parcel area as well. I mean, things used to be more boxes and envelopes, and now you'll see these poly bags that are, basically just take the shape of what's ever in it, which makes running it through an automated system a little bit more difficult, because everything's set on sensors and timing and all of those things. But from a shipping standpoint, it's cheaper. It's all the way through the process, it's less expensive. So it's kind of the way things are going. And I think now too, we're getting hopefully more away from, sometimes you'll order a package and you'll have a little like Matchbox car in it, and it'll be a box that looks like it could hold a refrigerator. So some of those things are getting better, but yeah, it's all about being able to scale and adapt at this point, because things change so fast. So if we can make equipment that can handle that, it's going to be better.
It's not only equipment, it's also the processes. The thing that we see, it's people are changing. Like you said, people are sometimes a bit outdated, let's say, inside, despite providing absolutely cutting edge outside. But with the changes in even in the marketplace, like with remote work, people started to ask us also, can we make processes a bit more like modular? How can we distribute work differently? How can we experiment with our processes so we can try, different working models without, really committing all the way through. So yeah, but I absolutely agree. It's like modularity and scalability, and this ability to innovate, experiment a little, and see how it works is critical especially for smaller companies where they don't have a lot of money to burn, and these experiments must be fast, fail fast. It must be it must be really cheap.
No, it's very interesting, and I think it kind of plays very nicely into the whole idea of trying to explain to business owners who use all this infrastructure that we were talking about, what actually is behind this. So thank you very much for this this explanation. It was indeed very, very eye-opening and quite curious, because this is not something that normally people think about. People think about the point where they send a package and the point where they receive a package, and what goes in between. Most people don't really want to know, as
Right.
long as that package is on time and in the right place. So again, if people wanted to learn more about this or your company, the services you offer, what's the best place to go to learn more?
Yeah, so you can go to Caljan.com. That's CALJAN.com, and we have just recently kind of updated our website as we've added a few more solutions as well, and so that is the first place to start. But if you look up telescopic conveyor, so our name in Europe, if you think of it like Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand, but that's what everybody uses to call tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Caljan is what they call the telescopic conveyors in the European market. So if you look up Caljan on Google, you will see a lot of videos and a lot of different information about some of the product lines we offer. So we are working on doing that in the U.S. To get our name to be that synonymous with a telescopic conveyor. So,
which company said that they are the most recognizable Hoover brand? It wasn't Dyson; it was some other vacuum cleaner producer, and they actually had an advert saying we are the most recognized Hoover on American market.
Yeah.
Which was met with a pretty funny reaction from Hoover, who just
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, we would take
Seriously?
that. We would take that as well. The most recognizable Caljan on the market. So.
Okay, with this kind of, I think it's a very good place to wrap up. Thank you very much, Joe. This was indeed very interesting, and as always, let's hope it was of use to someone.
Thank you for listening.
Also, don't miss the next one, where we'll discuss continuous education and the lessons that businesses can take away from educational environment, with our guest Paula de Santiago, President and CEO of Borderland Partners and former educator.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or visit bdr.show to find out more about future episodes and guests. You can also check out cognition.llc for more information on Cognition Shared Solutions, our services, and other events hosted by us.
For now, it's thank you from myself, Artur Guja, and my co-host, your friendly neighborhood data guy, Dr. Marian.
Thank you and goodbye.